My name is Vivian Carr. I am 34 years old. Before I tell you what I said to my parents that afternoon, drop your city in the comments right now. Doesn't matter if you're watching from Dallas, from Phoenix, from Nashville, from Detroit. Because what happened on my front porch that day, after 17 years of absolute silence, is something I never planned, never rehearsed, never even allowed myself to imagine. They stood there, my mother holding flowers, my father holding a small wrapped gift, smiling, like it had been a weekend, like 17 years was nothing. My mother said, "Sweetheart, we just want to meet our granddaughter." And I looked at her, and I said, "She doesn't exist." The smile left her face so fast it was like watching a light switch off. We will get to that moment. But first, you need to understand what they did to me. When I was 16 years old, I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in Charlotte, North Carolina with my cat Oliver. A gray tabby who has strong opinions about breakfast timing and zero interest in my emotional well-being. And I have, by every measure that actually matters, a good life. But I want to take you back to Clover Creek, Tennessee. Population 6,000, and everybody knowing everybody else's everything. The kind of small town where the same 5 family names appear on the school honor roll generation after generation. Where the church bulletin is basically the local newspaper. Where what people think of you matters more than what you actually are. My parents, Douglas and Beverly Carr, were exactly the kind of people that town produced and celebrated. My father was a high school vice principal. My mother ran the church women's auxiliary and volunteered at the elementary school library every Tuesday. They were organized, respected, quietly proud people who believed deeply in appearances. Not in a villainous way. I want to be fair. They were not cruel people in the way that some parents are cruel, deliberately, consciously, with malice. They were people who had built their entire identity around a certain image of their family and their lives, and when that image was threatened, they chose the image. Every single time. I learned this early. When my older brother Derek got caught shoplifting at 15, it was handled quietly, privately. The store owner was a family friend, nothing went on any record, and the incident was never spoken of again. When my aunt, my father's sister, got divorced, my parents stopped inviting her to family gatherings for 2 years because her presence made things complicated. When anything threatened the surface of things, it was smoothed over, hidden, managed. I understood the rules. I followed them carefully. Until I was 16 years old and I met Tobias Wren. Tobias Wren was not from Clover Creek. He had moved there junior year with his father, who had taken a job at the county utilities office. He was quiet and funny, and he read actual books for pleasure, which in our school made him either deeply suspicious or deeply interesting depending on who you asked. I found him interesting. We started talking in October. By December we were inseparable. By February we were in love, the full, consuming, completely disproportionate way that 16-year-olds fall in love when they have never been in love before. My parents did not approve. Not because Tobias was unkind or troubled, or any of the things parents legitimately worry about. They did not approve because his father worked at the utilities office, and they lived in the apartment complex on the east side of town, and his mother was not in the picture, and none of that fit the image my parents had constructed for our family. They told me this plainly. "He's not the right kind of people," Vivian, my mother said, which is a sentence I have never forgotten because of how completely it revealed what she believed about human beings. I kept seeing Tobias anyway. In November of my junior year, I was 16, almost 17, I found out I was pregnant. I took 4 tests over 2 days because I could not process the first 3 results. They all said the same thing. I told Tobias first. He went very pale and very quiet, and then he took my hand and said, "Whatever you want to do. Whatever you decide. I'm here." He meant it. I want to say that clearly because he becomes important later, and I want you to understand who he was from the beginning. I told my parents on a Sunday evening after dinner. I had rehearsed it 14 times. It did not matter. My father set down his coffee cup. My mother pressed her hand flat against the dining table like she needed something solid to hold on to. The silence lasted approximately 30 seconds and felt approximately 30 years. Then my father spoke. "Who knows about this?" he said. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "What do you need?" Not, "We will figure this out together." "Who knows about this?" "Just Tobias," I said. My father nodded slowly. The nod of a man running calculations. "We will make an appointment," he said. "This week. We will handle it quietly, and that will be the end of it." I understood what he meant. "No," I said. Both of them looked at me. "I'm not doing that," I said. "I've thought about it, and I'm not doing that." "Vivian," my mother started. It's my decision, I said. And I've made it. What followed was 2 weeks of the worst kind of war. The quiet kind, conducted entirely in clipped sentences and loaded silences, and the specific cruelty of being made to feel like a problem to be solved rather than a person to be supported. My father presented me with options. Option 1. Terminate the pregnancy, tell no one, continue as normal. Option 2. Go to my mother's sister in Knoxville for the remainder of the school year, place the baby for adoption, return in the fall, and tell anyone who asked that I had been dealing with a family health matter. Option 3. There is no option 3, my father said. Not in this house. I chose option 3 anyway. They gave me a week. 7 days to change my mind. I did not change my mind. On a Friday afternoon in December, my mother came to my bedroom door and told me my father had made his decision, and it was final. I could not stay in their house. Not because they could not support me financially. My father was a vice principal, my mother worked part-time at the school district office. They were not wealthy, but they were comfortable. Because of what it would look like. Because Douglas Carr's daughter could not be visibly, undeniably pregnant at Clover Creek High School, while Douglas Carr was vice principal of that same school. Because the image mattered more than I did. My mother packed a suitcase with me. She folded my clothes carefully, the way she always had, and she cried quietly the entire time and did not say a single word that was actually useful. My father drove me to Tobias' apartment. He did not come inside. He handed me an envelope through the car window, cash, $200, and he said, "When you come to your senses, you know where we are." Then he drove away. I stood outside Tobias' apartment building in December in Tennessee with a suitcase and $200 and a baby growing inside me. I was 16 years old. Tobias' father, a quiet man named Gerald Wren who asked very few questions and made very few judgments, let me stay in their spare room without hesitation. I finished junior year. I will not tell you it was easy because it was the hardest thing I have ever done. The whispers in the hallways, the teachers who did not know where to look, the particular loneliness of being visibly different in a place that valued sameness above everything. But I finished. Our daughter was born in July. We named her Rosalie. She had Tobias' dark hair and my stubborn mouth, and she was, from the very first moment, the most real thing that had ever happened to me. I held her and I understood, with the kind of clarity that only comes in extraordinary moments, that everything my parents had tried to protect their image from was worth infinitely more than the image itself. Tobias and I were together for 3 more years. We tried. We genuinely tried. But we were teenagers raising a baby with no support system and very little money, and eventually the trying was not enough to hold everything together. We separated when Rosalie was 2. But, and this is the part one I'm most proud of, we separated well. We sat down like the adults we were still in the process of becoming, and we agreed that Rosalie would always come first. That she would have both of us. That she would never be used as a way to hurt the other person. We kept that promise. I moved to Charlotte at 22 for a nursing program. Tobias stayed in Tennessee. He works in construction management now, coaches Little League on weekends, remarried a woman named Beth who adores Rosalie. When Rosalie visits him, she comes back happy and full of stories about Beth's cooking and the dog they got last year. That is a good outcome. I graduated. I became a registered nurse. I work in pediatrics, which feels, every single day, like exactly the right place for me to be. I built a life. Quietly. Without help from the people who were supposed to provide it. And my parents, Douglas and Beverly Carr, were not part of any of it. No call when Rosalie was born. No card. No acknowledgement of any kind. My brother Derek reached out once, awkwardly, when Rosalie was about 3. A brief text that said, "Hope you're doing okay," which I appreciated even if it led nowhere. My parents maintained their silence completely. I sent one letter. When Rosalie was 18 months old, I told them her name. I told them she was healthy and funny, and that she had just learned to wave, and she waved at everything. Strangers, dogs, ceiling fans. I told them the door was open if they wanted to walk through it. I never heard back. So I closed the door, locked it, and got on with my life. Rosalie was 17 when my parents showed up. 17 years old. Junior year of high school. The same year I had been pregnant with her, which was a fact I was very aware of as I stood at my front door looking through the peephole at my parents on my porch. My father. Gray at the temples now. Carrying a small wrapped gift. Pink paper, white ribbon, the kind of gift wrap you buy at a drugstore when you need gift wrap and did not think ahead. My mother. Smaller than I remembered. Holding a bunch of flowers, mixed grocery store bouquet, still in the plastic sleeve. They had found my address through my cousin Diane, who I have since had a very direct conversation with. I stood at the door for a long time. Oliver the cat came and sat on my foot. I opened the door. My mother's face did the thing faces do when they have been holding an expression in place for a long time and suddenly do not have to anymore. It collapsed, not dramatically, just quietly, all the held tension releasing at once. "Vivian," she said. "You look. How did you get this address?" I said. "Diane," my father said. Straight to the point. He had always been straight to the point. "She mentioned you were in Charlotte. We found." "What do you want?" I said. Another practice speech meeting unprepared reality moment. My mother recovered first. "Sweetheart," she said. And that word, sweetheart, the word she had called me my entire childhood, landed somewhere complicated in my chest. "We want to meet our granddaughter. We are getting older and we feel that family." "She doesn't exist," I said. Complete silence. My mother's mouth stayed open around the next word she had been about to say. My father went very still. "What?" my mother said. Barely a sound. "Rosalie," I said. "She doesn't exist. Not to you. She has never existed to you. You made that choice 17 years ago when you put me out of your house because I wouldn't do what was convenient for your reputation." "Vivian, she is 17 years old," I said. "She has never once heard your names. She does not know she has maternal grandparents. Because I made a decision, the same way you made yours, to protect her from people who had already shown me exactly what they were willing to do to someone they claimed to love." My father's jaw worked. "You had no right," he started. "I had every right," I said. "I am her mother. Protecting her is my job. And the first thing I protected her from was you." My mother was crying now, the flowers shaking in her hands. "Here is the thing I need to tell you. The part that does not fit neatly into a satisfying story. It did not feel the way I thought it would. I had imagined this moment. Not obsessively, not constantly, but occasionally over 17 years I had run some version of this scene in my head. What I would say. How it would feel. I had imagined it feeling like victory. It felt like standing in a cold room. Necessary. True. But not warm. "Why now?" I said. 17 years. Why now? My mother wiped her face with the back of her hand. "Your father," she said. "His heart. 8 months ago. He is okay, it was caught in time, but it made you think about what you'd left behind," I said. "Yes," she whispered. I looked at my father, who had driven me to a boy's apartment at 16 years old, handed me $200 through a car window, and driven away. He looked old. He looked tired. He looked like a man who had spent a long time being certain of things, and had recently become uncertain. "Come and sit on the porch," I said. I did not invite them inside. The porch felt right. Neutral. Neither fully welcoming nor fully closed. I brought water. It was warm and someone needed to not faint on my front steps. We sat for 2 hours. I told them everything. Not as punishment. I measured every word carefully, kept emotion out of it as much as I could, spoke in facts rather than wounds. But I told them the truth of what the last 17 years had looked like. The spare room in Gerald Wren's apartment. Junior year with a growing belly and hallway whispers. Labor at 17 with Tobias' hand and a nurse named Carol who was kinder to me than anyone had been in months. Learning to be a mother and a student simultaneously. Moving to Charlotte with a toddler and a dream of nursing school. The years of working double shifts. The graduation. The career. Rosalie. I told them about Rosalie. Not to give them access. That was a decision I was nowhere near ready to make. But because she is the whole point of everything. She is why the story matters. And they had asked about her and I found, unexpectedly, that I wanted them to know she was extraordinary. She was 17, and she wanted to be a marine biologist. She was funny in the dry, quiet way that sneaks up on you. She had her father's hair and my stubbornness and Gerald Wren's gentleness. She had absorbed it somehow in all those years of being around him. She read books for pleasure. She was kind to younger kids and animals and people who were struggling. She was everything. My mother wept through most of this. My father sat with his hands on his knees and his jaw tight, and his eyes doing something I had never seen them do when I was a child. When I finished, my mother asked, "Is there any possibility, any at all, that you would consider? I am not asking for forgiveness, I know we don't deserve that, but allowing us a chance. To know her, if she would want that." I looked at her for a long time. "That," I said quietly, "is not my decision." I called Rosalie that night. She was at Tobias and Beth's for the week, spring break. I could hear the dog barking in the background, and Beth's voice saying something about dinner. I told her everything. She was quiet for so long I thought the call had dropped. Mom, she finally said. Yeah, I said. You kept this from me my whole life. Yes, I said. I did. To protect you. But you are 17 now, and it is your life and you deserve to know. What are they like, she said. I thought about it honestly. Old, I said. Scared. They made terrible choices a long time ago. And I think they have been living with that. Your grandfather had a health scare. I think it made them look at what they had left undone. So this is about them feeling better, she said. She is so sharp. She has always been so sharp. Partly, I said. Probably mostly, if I am honest. But I also think, I paused. I think people can want things for selfish reasons and still mean them genuinely. Both things can be true. Silence. Can I think about it, she said. Take all the time you need, I said. Whatever you decide, I support it completely. There is no wrong answer. She thought about it for 2 weeks. She called me on a Saturday morning. I want to meet them, she said. Once. My terms. And then he'll decide if there's anything worth having. I called my parents. One condition, I told them. You answer everything she asks. Honestly. Whatever she asks. You owe her that much. My father said yes. It was the first time in my life I had heard him agree to something without qualification. They have met 3 times now. It is not warm. It is careful and slow and full of the particular awkwardness of people trying to build something where there was never a foundation. But it is something. Whether it becomes more, I do not know. That is Rosalie's story to write now. Not mine. What I know is this. When my father drove away from that apartment building and left me on the sidewalk at 16, he thought he was protecting something that mattered. What he actually did was show me with perfect clarity what protection really looks like. Every single choice I made for Rosalie, every time I showed up exhausted, every time I chose her over everything easier, was a direct answer to what he showed me a parent should not be. He taught me by showing me the wrong way. And I am, in the most complicated way possible, grateful for the lesson. Rosalie called me last Tuesday. Just to talk. No reason. She had seen a pelican at the beach and thought I would find it funny, and she was right. I picked up on the first ring. I always will. Subscribe for more.